Esperanza TV presents Taste and See. The story for today: My God is Sustainer.
My name is Don Keel, and I'm currently the Director of Young Adult Ministries and Adventist Christian Fellowship for the Georgia-Cumberland Conference. But years ago, as a young pastor, I had trouble knowing how to plan my taxes every year because the IRS seemed to have the habit of changing the tax laws every year. One particular year, I thought I had enough money saved, but the truth was, after figuring my taxes, I found that I owed the IRS $1,200, and I didn't have it. We were raising two small kids on a single salary. The next morning, I was reading the story in Matthew 17:24-27, where Jesus told Peter to go to the sea, and in the first fish he caught, there was going to be a coin, and with that, he could go and pay their taxes. Well, I began to get angry with God. I told God in my mind, that's not fair. All you had to do was give the order to Peter to go fishing, and there would be enough money in a fish's mouth to pay your taxes. I calculated that if we didn't tithe, we would have enough money with what we had already saved to pay our taxes. But my wife and I had held a firm belief that we would always return a faithful tithe and that God would take care of us. But now I was questioning. So it was a moment of struggle for me, trying to decide what to do. I asked my wife, and she was shocked. Of course we'll pay our tithe. That should not even be a question. And with that, we decided we were going to return God's tithe like we were supposed to do. 2 days later, I was in my office talking to a student. A knock on the door, and the receptionist informed me that my wife was on the phone. This was before cell phones. I told her to tell my wife that I would call her when I finished with the student. A few minutes later, a note came under the door, and it said, she said, a tree fell on your roof in a big storm up there. I asked the student if we could pick up our conversation later, and then picked up the phone and called my wife. She told me that a large oak tree had fallen on the roof and that water was pouring into the house. I rushed home. It was about a 20-minute drive, and on the way to my house, I started angrily talking to God. I told him, first, I already can't pay my taxes, and now you allow a tree to drop on my house? You promised if we were faithful that you would bless us. Do you call this a blessing? I pulled into the driveway to see this tree lying across my house with a limb that had punched through the roof over my daughter's room. My neighbor came over with his ladder and a chainsaw, and we climbed on the roof and began to cut the tree into smaller sections and roll them off the roof. And the whole time I was mad at God while cutting. I called my insurance adjuster, who came out within an hour, and she told me that it was definitely covered, but that I would need to find a contractor to fix it. So I called my cousin, who was a contractor, and asked if he could make some time to help me. And he told me, we'll order the materials and we'll come and help, but we can save you money if we don't have to pay any of our employees. If you are willing to do some work, I'll call a few more cousins and we can get it taken care of. We patched, rebuilt, and reshingled what was damaged without needing to hire anyone else. When we got all done, because they donated their labor, I discovered that I had exactly $1,200 to the penny. God had provided just the right amount for me to pay my taxes, not from the mouth of a fish, but using a tree, a roof, and insurance money. I invite you to trust God to provide for your needs as you're faithful to Him. Taste and see.
Now let us prepare to be faithful to God with our tithe and offerings.